Hey everyone, this is me, the Undead Viking. I'm here to talk to you about Vampire Hunters. Vampire Hunters is a board game, a scenario-driven board game where each person is playing a vampire hunter that is going on different missions and, like, mostly killing vampires is what they're going to be doing. I liken this a lot to, like, if you remember that Blade movie that had, like, the specialized vampire hunters that Blade took in, it kind of has that feel for me. And when I first heard about the game about a couple years ago, from Anthony Riccano from the Cardboard Jungle, and also a loyal member of the Weekly Alaboom. You should probably listen to both of those things. I don't know why you aren't. But regardless, he told me about the game and got me in touch with the creator. The creator got me a prototype. I played it, loved it, said, hey, I'd love to do a video for you. He said, great, let's do that. And then, for whatever reason, like, it just didn't happen. And for whatever reason, the game just didn't get legs, and that kind of happens in the board game world from time to time. And so I kind of put the game on the shelf, didn't really think about it. And then lo and behold, about a month ago, the creator got a hold of me and said, hey, we're going to publish this game. It's going to happen. And I was like, well, super. I'm happy and excited to work with you on this. But I don't have that prototype anymore. I had unfortunately thrown it away just because I just figured it was one of those things, right? And so the company got another prototype put together and sent it off to me, which is what I have in front of me right now. And I played it. It was just as excellent as I remembered it back then. And so why don't I just go ahead and show you kind of a brief overview of how the game is played and kind of how it looks. Remember, it is a prototype. And then we'll come back here and then we'll do the final thoughts and I'll tell you why I dig it. Alright, super. Alright, this is Vampire Hunters. This is the prototype that I was sent. Please keep that in mind as I show you how to play the game. This is not going to have the super awesome, cool miniatures. I got little standees, if you will. These are paper instead of cardboard. This is chipboard counters, things like that. So I do invite you to go ahead and dive into the game page of Board Game Geek or the Kickstarter page. You can kind of get a better feel and a better look at what this final published game is going to be, which is going to be awesome in my opinion. But anyway, regardless, I am not going to dive into every single possible rule either. I'm going to give you a really good, I think, brief overview of the rules and get you kind of a feel for the game. Now, obviously, Vampire Hunters is a scenario-driven game. I had limited scenarios to play with, but my friends and I were able to just come up with our own ideas and just test out different things and different actions that we could do, and we had a lot of fun with it. This is obviously also a very thematic game. You are hunting vampires, which is a pretty cool theme, if I might say so. And also, it is very story-driven. Now, by story, I do not mean that this is like, you're going to be reading paragraphs of text and getting a feel for the game, but other than the action of the game kind of speaks to you, and you kind of envision it, if you will. So this isn't a game of, like, abstract feelings, if you're that's what you're looking for, and I doubt you are. This is a very visceral game. But anyway, so each person is going to play a different vampire hunter, and you're getting a little miniature. These are standees, obviously, and I just want to show you quickly like what each person's going to have. They're going to have their own little character sheet. You know, I love games with this. I love having a little tableau that all my stuff goes on, and I can actually show, you know, what my character is. In this case, this is Stefan, the vampire hunter. Now, one of the cool things about this game is that, well, you know, for starters, let's just go ahead and look. So there's different things that you can do, you know, like if it's, and these tell you how many different dice that you get to roll to succeed at those things, you know, whether it's like an intelligence test, you know, speed and what have you. So it's, you know, those things, and very, you know, the icons are very easy to tell. Your hit points are right there, how much health you have, and then also you say if you make a melee attack when another hunter is in your area, you may reroll one attack die. So it's just, you know, little flavor text gives you an idea of what your characters are able to do. Let me just grab like another character so you can kind of see one. So like, and here's magenta. You can kind of compare like the two different stat blocks, if you will. And then magenta is like, you are never trapped by debris. She's too quick, you know, and like obviously debris is, and this is like debris stuff like that happens where, you know, like it's almost like a movie when you're playing. So like, you things come crashing down on you and what have you. That's what these kinds of games, why I like these kinds of games, because like you envision those things. But anyway, so on the back of this card, however, you can see is if Stefan gets turned into a vampire. And so then, you can see that now it's like you may now attack hunters. For each 6 rolled, you steal a focus, and I'll explain focus in a little bit. Focus is kind of like your resource in the game. Well, there's really 2 resources: focus and your health, obviously. And so then you get to steal a focus from the targeted hunter, and focus is something that you use to. Well, you get it for defeating vampires, for accomplishing certain objectives, but you also can use focus later on to do certain actions and to accomplish certain things. You can even use it to create weapons. So there's all kinds of things like that, and I'll touch on that here in just a little bit. Now, you have your basics that like Stefan will start with. So he gets a wooden stake, so he can stab him in the heart or whatever with that, and then and then also he has this crossbow, and so then you can see like these are the amount of dice that he gets to roll. You can see the range, so like it's 1 to 3 for the crossbow, 0 he's got to be in the same spot as a vampire, and then you can see like it works on a 4 or better, the target number on a 6-sided dice, and this is a 5 or better, and then so each one of those will be a hit and a certain amount of damage to take out different things depending upon the creature that he is fighting. Now, on the back side of the card, you can see this is Stefan the Vampire. Now he doesn't have a ranged attack, but now he can go ahead and chomp on people because he's got teeth right there. So kind of neat that you also turn over what you have. Each player, when you start, you get to pick like a special ability. In this case, I just picked Fearless. When there's more than one vampire in your area, you may re-roll 1 attack die. Obviously, I picked that one for Stefan because it's one of those things where he is going to be a melee guy, and that speaks to like him diving into large groups of vampires and going at it with them. You also get some starting weapons that have limited uses, and so like here's Stefan's trident that he can use, and also his garlic gas. And this is all an area effect. You can tell by the tokens that are on there, and so forth. And so you just get some starting equipment, and that'll change with the different scenarios and different things like that, and the different characters that you have. But I like games that, like I said, that give you that little piece of paper that kind of gives you an idea of what your character looks like, an idea of what they're doing, and what they're going to be like. What their tactics are going to be when they enter into the scenario. So now in this particular scenario, the vampire hunters are going into this old dilapidated area, this like warehouse / apartment building complex or whatever you want to call it. And their whole goal is they're trying to get down here to save these humans. These little tokens right there are basically the food that the vampires have hidden, and they've got them hidden in the basement, and they're blocked by this sealed door. Now inside this building, there are several levers that you need to activate, and that'll open up that door, and they'll be able to get out. And so you can go in there and you can save them. And if you go in there and save them, you can see like you actually earn focus for saving them on the back of the token. And then of course you have to get out, and be saved, and before the vampires like either defeat you or you run out of time. Now how does that time work? Well, this game runs on a timer. It's over here, and then each scenario will tell you a different thing. You start off in the day, and you work your way into night. Obviously, during the day, vampires technically, or should, or hopefully, will be more vulnerable to your attacks, and there's actually an instance where you can actually expose them to sunlight during the day. I'll explain that in just a little bit. But the way this game works is that each hunter gets a turn, and then the vampires get a turn. A hunter gets a turn, a vampire gets a turn, and so forth, until all the hunters have gone, and in which case you turn the clock ahead 1 hour, and so on and so forth. And so you have to complete the scenario, before you get to the end over there. So there is a timing situation where you do feel kind of pressed, and there is that anxiety of making sure that you make it through. Now, the difficulty in the game is not so much that it's not like the direction is easy. Go in here, find those levers, save those people. That's pretty direct. But the thing is that each turn you're going to be uncovering more and more of these vampires. You're going to have different events that are going to cause more vampires to show up. And pretty soon, unless you are handling what you're fighting, you're going to get overrun and you're going to run out of time. The biggest thing the vampires do is they actually are, if they're closing in on you, it makes it very, very tough to move. It's very, very difficult to get out of. You're spending more movement points to get out of areas with vampires in them, and that's one of the major things that this game has. It's like if you are desperate to get done with the mission, you're running out of time, do I stop and waste time fighting these vampires, or do I just try to like run through them and what have you? So, but anyway, I'll talk more about that in my final thoughts about that anxiety, that pressure, this panic that I felt while playing the game that I enjoyed a great deal. And but let me just show you the basics of the game. So on your turn, you're gonna take a couple actions, and there's a lot of different actions you can do. You can search in a room, you can fight something that's nearby or within range, and then you can just move. Movement is very simple. You get 2 movement points. Doesn't matter which hunter you are, you get 2 movement points. If you have a door that you have to open, that costs a movement point. So in this situation, to get into this area, like you would go, like Stefan would go 1 movement point to open the door, and then he'd go another movement point to enter the room. And so, that would be very, very simple. That would be one of his 2 actions that he would take. And then then the next turn, like if you want to do it, he could take another move action, and he could open this door, and then he could go into the other room. Now you'll notice that there's this little encounter chit. As soon as you're in a spot that would tell you to activate like an encounter. So you've discovered that encounter thing. And each scenario is going to have a map, and they're going to show you exactly how you set it up and what have you. So just, this isn't like a haphazard type of situation. So you go ahead and you then are going to flip over your encounter, and this is a lot of where the timing comes in, where you might have something, okay, you open that and you go to this spot and you stay there. That's your turn. And then on the next turn, I'll move in because I have more, and I'll open that door, and then like you'd activate like if there's any vampires in that spot, and so you can kind of hedge your bets if you will, set things up. But I'm just kind of trying to show you what happens here. And so then you turn this over, and then it tells you exactly what's going to happen in that particular room. In this case, and this isn't always going to be looking like this. I'll show you some other differences here in a little bit. But you're going to say it's like a warrior and a thrall and a thrall. So you're saying, well, what does that mean? Well, you have this deck of the different types of vampires you can have, and they have 2 sides as well. This side is for the day, and this side is for the night. So you can see, like, the warrior, it's just, he's, what he is, during the day. But on the back, like 2 health, he has a range of 0, initiative 5, he gets 3 dice, target number of 5 or better. And so on the other side, everything kind of stays the same. However, if the warrior rolls 2 or more 6s, the warrior gets to roll +1 attack die. So then he can do, and remember, each success is a point of damage. And over here, that focus, that is how much focus, if you kill a warrior, that's your reward for succeeding in killing that warrior. And so what you're going to do is, so it says a warrior and 2 thralls. So I'll show you a thrall here, just a second here. So here's the thrall. So here's the warrior and 2 thralls. And so that's him during the day, and then that's him during the night. And if the thrall rolls 2 or more 6, the thrall may re-roll 1 die. And so, they have different powers as they get bigger. So you're going to find miniatures in the miniatures game, and then, or, like in this case, I've lost my warrior. There he is. You're going to have like these, and you're going to appear them. So I'm going to get the standees here. So I need a warrior, and then look in the warrior, and it says room 1. So that you might not be able to see this, but there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so you're going to go ahead and put the warrior in that location. And because it's during the day, you put them on their side to show that they're sleeping. And then you're going to go ahead, and with a thrall, I'm going to grab a couple of these thralls here, and I'm going to put them out. So I have 1 thrall, and it goes on spot number 2. And then I need 1 more thrall, and he goes on spot number 4. And so he was, and these were sleeping, and apparently you missed him, and that's one of the kind of cool things too. Remember, vampires are always hiding in the darkness, or they're up in the rafters and what have you. And so I kind of like how you can go through a spot, and then all of a sudden it's behind you. I mean, it's this is very, very much a horror game, if you will, right? So just keep that in mind. So now that's how you would spawn those things. Now, fighting vampires is pretty simple, and in combat, I should say, in general, is pretty simple. You're going to target whatever area that you want, whatever creature that you want, depending upon range and depending upon the location of your hunter. So like melee, obviously you have to be in the same spot. If you're in if you have, this is a wall here, but like here you can have a direct line of sight, and you're not going from miniature to miniature. You're just going to go like line of sight as far as the spot you're in to the spot that you're firing into. So if you were here, and you were firing, you could get over there because of the fact that you have an open door. If that door was closed, you couldn't reach him. Pretty straightforward. And so, and if they're sleeping, the vampires, don't wake up. However, if you attack a vampire, obviously they're going to be screaming if they're attacked, and that'll alert everyone else that they're being attacked. Also, certain weapons have an explosion on them, and those will wake up people, wake up the vampires as well, and that'll wake up everything in the area that you're fighting if you use an explosive weapon. So to do an attack, and that's an action. So if Stefan is in the same spot as a vampire, all he's going to do in this situation is you're going to look at his melee, and remember we have 3 dice, and we're looking for 4 or better on 3 dice. So we're just going to go ahead and roll. We got 1 successful hit. So what were we attacking? We were attacking a thrall. So then we look at the amount of hit points that a thrall has, and they have 1. And so then that would be enough to destroy the thrall, and you take it off. Real straightforward. The reverse, as far as the vampire attacking, is the exact same thing. So if this thrall was awake and they were attacking, we would go ahead and look, and then it gets 3 dice, and it's looking for 5 or more, and we would go ahead and roll 3 dice in the attack. We got 1 hit, and we do 1 hit. Now the interesting thing is, and I didn't actually put this on there, I do apologize, is that the vampire hunters, they start with armor. And so they just have a little bar that they put on the top of their board, like so, over their hit points. And so it's when first time you get successfully hit, you ignore all the hits, and then you flip it, and then you ignore all hits again, and you discard it, and then you start taking damage. So, and that's also scenario driven. You might have scenarios where you don't have armor and things like that, but just keep that in mind. So you go ahead and then, after the attacks occur, I should mention, attacks from the vampire hunters occur on actions. However, to determine whether or not what happens on a turn with vampires is, let's just say these are all activated somehow, they woke up or what have you. There are, at the end of each turn, vampire turn, there are cards that are day activation cards, and there are cards that are night protection, so or night activation. And so night activation would occur obviously when you get the timer past the awakening phase. Remember, during the day, whenever you go to encounter and you spawn a vampire, they are asleep. Later on during the night, when you turn the encounter over, you will spawn vampires that are awake. So a day activation card, so you have a thing where it'll say, if you can see this, it says up to 3 areas away, the vampires will move to your area. All the vampires in your area attack you, and then 2+ areas away, 1 area towards the nearest hunter. So what that means, I'm just going to kind of cheat here just a little bit, and let's just say this door was open, and this door is open, and we had another, actually this door is open. We had another vampire over here. And let's just say these 2 were fighting. So in this situation, you'd say first up to 3 areas, they move into your area. So we would just go, 1, 2, 3, and then this is not going to look real good for Stefan, but these would move into his area. We would process the attacks for that spot, and then after all is said and done, then if they were still, so this one were 1, 2, 3, he wouldn't actually get to that spot. Then after all was said and done, then he would move in. Obviously, vampires converging and things like that can be very, very dangerous and very, very difficult for players to handle. So nighttime, weird things, even more things happen where it's here it's a warrior emerges from the tunnels. Place a warrior besides tunnel entrance 1. I didn't actually talk about the tunnels real quick, but here's a tunnel entrance, a tunnel entrance, and a tunnel entrance. You'll notice the tunnels are over here. Warriors, I shouldn't say warriors, the vampire hunters can enter the tunnels and actually use them to go in and move through and come out at another exit. So you can use that to kind of get around the map quickly. really invaluable later on when the room is getting kind of filled with vampires. But so you then, like, you would have that. You'd have vampires show up. Once again, they move around. You test. The person who draws this will have to test their book skill, which is that right there. And then, you have fail, swap the nearest vampire for an elder. And then, so what does that mean? Elders are, like, obviously you can probably guess, the older, more powerful vampires. So you have, like, Kophis, you have Evaki, and Thayer. And so, like, and these are bigger, more powerful, more doom-bringing type vampires than just the minions, if you will. So, that's kind of how the activation works. That's how the fighting works, and what have you. Okay, so just not going to worry about finishing off this combat, but different things can be found as well with an encounter. So, like, here's an encounter chip that actually says where you have a lever, and so then this is one of the items you need. So it says put a lever in, like, 3, and then put a warrior on 1 and a thrall on 4. So you can go like this, and let me find another warrior. So you'd have that when you'd, like, entered that room. And so then you could use an action to activate the lever in that room. Another cool thing that you can do is, you'll notice there are some chits like this. Let's be kind to Stefan and, like, move him over to this spot right here. So you can see that there is this little chit here, and what this is a boarded up window. If he attacks that, and he has a weapon that can actually break a window, then, like, and these are like explosive items or things like that, you can smash open the window, and you can see then there's, like, a little thing with light that coming in. If he attacks it and does it successfully, the light then, as you well know, sunlight destroys vampires, and that can be a very, very quick way to just obliterate, all the vampires in the area that you're fighting. Now, some vampires don't die immediately when sunlight hits them. They'll just take some damage, but still a very powerful thing that they have available to them that they can do. Some activation things will actually just put an elder on them, of course. So there's tougher things like that. And so, there's a lot of different variables, a lot of different things that are going to be happening while you play the game. Now, there are a couple other things you can do as far as just, like, searching rooms in an attempt to find things. And so, and then you have a deck of item cards. Some spots you can search, some spots you can't. You probably can't see this, but there's a little eyeball right here with a slash through it. That means you can't search in that area. But, like, rooms, normally you can search. And so, and good and bad things can happen when you search. So, like, you can find here, like, a flamethrower. But as an item card, you have to turn it over like this, and it says, you find an old blowtorch, some wood, and a lighter. You can build a new weapon. So for 2 focus tokens that you've earned from completing certain objectives or killing vampires, then you can turn this over, and now all of a sudden now you have a flamethrower. And so it has a range of 1, and it has, like, and you can upgrade yourself and have those things ability. Oh, and I should mention, like, you see this little thing with this little stick there? You get a die that has this thing, basically a break symbol on 2 sides. And so when you use that weapon that's kind of like been made by you, it has a chance of breaking every time you use it. You do that. Now, some of the item cards will actually spawn, and here's like a guardian. A hidden guardian leaps at your throat, resolve the guardian's attack against you, then continue your turn. And so, you aren't always going to just get items and cool stuff. You can, have bad things happen as well. So, there's lots of cool things like that. It isn't always weapons either. Like, you can have, you find a battered but functional flashlight. All hunters in your room ignore the dark room effects while it is. Oh, here's that debris that we had to worry about, or that Magenta doesn't have to worry about if you're trapped by it. And so different things like that. So item cards, obviously, it's part of the fun. It's part of, like, the randomness of the game, and the rewards are definitely worth it, which is something you need in games like this. When you have a random item deck or a random search deck, you need to make it worth it, to actually, like, look for those things. And so when they make it actually worth it, it makes the risk valuable. So, that's at its core the game. Oh, there's one other thing I wanted to show you before I talk a little bit on my final thoughts. But there are these abilities that you can do that are, like, combined abilities. Like, so Distract. The active hunter makes a ranged attack on a vampire that is in an area with another vampire. who distracts the vampire, and the attacker rolls +1 attack die. And so the active hunter pays to focus. Both hunters get the full focus reward if the vampire is destroyed, but if the vampire is not destroyed, it immediately attacks both of the hunters. So this is where like the teamwork of the game comes in handy. And this is definitely a game that, yeah, you could play it solo if you wanted to. You could just play all four, but this is one of those things where I like games like this because everybody feels like they're contributing, and you can come up with ways to work together to make the game, more immersive and a lot more fun as well. So, like here's double melee. The active hunter and another hunter in the same area make a melee attack. Both hunters play at focus. Both hunters get the full reward, and then if the vampire is not destroyed, it immediately attacks both hunters. So, it's just, and then once again, that's one of those things where you can kind of envision it. Like two of them like grabbing a vampire, holding it down, while one shoves the stake into his heart. That kind of thing. And so, once again, it draws you into the game, it draws you into the action of the game, it makes it a lot more fun, which is something that I really, really liked about this one. So, let me talk more about that in my final thoughts, and I'll do that right now. Okay, so there you go. That is the Vampire Hunters and how to be a vampire hunter and hopefully not turn into a vampire yourself. But you know what? Turning into a vampire yourself and eating your friends is always fun. I like games that allow me to switch sides about halfway through. I think that's a rather enjoyable aspect of games, and I played a lot of those types of games. And it always seems to be like a supernatural game that happens in. But then again, I guess that does make sense. I mean, it isn't like I'm going to be like trading goods in a European fish market and then all of a sudden decide I need to feast on the flesh of the guy next to me. However, that would be a pretty fun game. Somebody should make that. Anyway, regardless, Vampire Hunters. I touched on a lot of things that I really liked in the gameplay portion, but then again, it's just like, this is a game, it's a visceral experience, it's an immersive movie-like experience. Like I said, like the Blade movie with the vampire hunters and the professional purveyors of fighting against the dark, if you will. I like these types of games. If you watch my videos, you know that I am like a thematic gamer. I hate saying Ameritrash, but I mean, fine. I'm an Ameritrash gamer. I can enjoy the Euro side, and I do quite a bit, but I would rather be rolling a bunch of dice and, having variable player powers and beating the snot out of robots or aliens or zombies or vampires or superheroes or whatever in a game over doing dry textile trading, in the late 1700s Spain countryside, if you will. And so when I heard about this game, I knew as long as the mechanicisms, as Keith would say, were solid and they flowed well, I knew I was going to enjoy it. And that's one of the big problems sometimes with games is like, when you're playing like an RPG, when you're playing like an open-ended type game, you can have like there being fudginess to it, if you will. It's like you can have situations where like the rules don't technically cover. But when you're playing a game, like a board game, you need to have good, clean, concise rules that allow you to structure a game well, have little to no ambiguity, but that don't also get in the way of the fun. And that's like pretty much the basics, in a weird way. I mean, I don't want to boil a game down to like it's very, very small components, but ultimately the game has to be fun, and the rules have to kind of be both like complex and have a lot to them, but also be very intuitive to the point where they just kind of slide away. You're not open up a rule book and flipping through trying to figure out what you can do in a certain situation. How many d6s do we get? How do we change this? Having cards that actually have all the stuff on them that you need, things like that, really enhance the experience and make it so you can be in the game from moment to moment, from scene to scene, movie-wise, and enjoying each and every person's both victory and failure. Since this is a cooperative game, there is no big mastermind watching over, directing the vampires around, though that'd be kind of a cool variant, if you will. This is a game where, like, obviously you all succeed or all fail as a team, and the added bonus of like the different combo attacks that you can do, and plus, like I said, the structure of the turns. Like, okay, I'm going to go into the room, I'm going to set myself up to fight if something shows up in front of me. You go into the room and do this, that, the other thing. And being able to place yourselves in what you think would be a fortuitous situation, a fortuitous place, and be able to plan that out, be strategic, and be tactical. really makes the game a great deal of fun. Now, obviously, the theme is what's going to sell it. If you like the idea of being a vampire hunter, I think you're really going to dig this one. If you like rolling buckets of dice and trying to defeat the evil that lurks in the night, then I think you're really going to like this one. So, so there you go. If you have any questions about it, ask away. I'll be happy to answer those to the best of my ability. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. And until next time, I'm the Undead Viking. I'm telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day. All right, bye-bye.